So, on your website, you mentioned that you took a 6-month sabbatical to RV around the country. So, what about that trip made you both fall in love with it and want to make it permanent?
It was an amazing experience. And truthfully, at the time, we thought that it was just 6 months. And we relocated from from the DC area to Denver and thought we were going to be there long term.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it didn't even cross our minds at the time that long term RVing was possible for us. It wasn't necessarily something that we even wanted at the time. But then we kept thinking back to it. So it was the amazing travel, but not just that, it was the combination of the travel and the freedom. So both of those in combination kept coming back to us. And we thought maybe we would RV again 10 years down the road, do another sabbatical or in retirement like a lot of people do.
Yeah.
But instead, we started thinking, well, how can we make this possible in the shorter term again?
Yeah. I love that. And I love that your guys' story that you had this in common too. Like you both are just like so down to have this like unique lifestyle. And I think that's pretty unique in itself as well.
Wouldn't you say that is a little bit of a funny story as well too?
Oh, let's
in
hear.
the DC area, when we started dating, Kevin wasn't sure that he ever wanted to move originally or that he would leave.
Yeah, Christine grew up as an Army brat, and I spent most of my life on the West Coast. And then we met in the DC area, and travel wasn't really something that was on my radar. And I kind of got introduced to it a bit through Christine when we would travel together and see places. And it was like, wow, this is really great. And it just kind of snowballed from there, obviously.
I guess it just takes trying something new. Or I know some RVers who, they say one spouse had to be convinced to do it and then came around.
Well, that's awesome. And I think I remember reading on your blog that Kevin, you were really big in instrumenting like you guys doing this full time, right?
Looking back on it, the original idea, I think, was mine to begin with. Part of it was the whole getting out of the DC area, and we loved it there. We really loved our time there, but over time, the traffic and just high house prices and you name it. I mean, just kind of city life in general kind of makes you think like, well, maybe there's something else. And I think the imagination just kind of ran wild at that point. And here today.
That's awesome, though. What a cool story, though. I love your guys' story. So what was the biggest deciding factor for you guys deciding to live in an RV full time?
I'd say the catalyst was having kids.
Yeah.
So once we had the kids and we just realized how much time we spent away from them.
Yeah.
They just weren't with us as often as we wanted. And we thought about what their future would look like, what we wanted to offer them in their childhood and growing up, what kind of parents we wanted to be. And so we thought, the lifestyle that you can have in RVing where you're together all the time, where you see them growing up, where you have more of a constant hand in that really sounded appealing.
Yeah, at the time when we had moved to the Denver area, I was working a job where I was commuting all the way across town. And at the time, our son hadn't even been born yet. And I got up before my daughter was out of bed. And then I got back and we would have dinner and I might spend an hour a day with her before we put her to bed. And then it was just rinse and repeat. And it was definitely... After enough of that, we started thinking again, like, well, is there another way?
Exactly. And then the timing it seemed right. Sometimes when an opportunity presents itself, the timing works out. You think, okay, well, this is too much of a coincidence. This is, God saying, okay, go this way. And so our son was 8 months old. And so kind of the very newborn stage was behind us.
Yeah.
And so it's gotten a little easier. And then my job was already remote. I had stayed with the same company when I moved from DC to Denver, but was able to be remote. And my boss was very supportive and was supportive of moving into an RV and continuing to work for the company. So all of that aligned, and we thought, well, I think we can do it. Let's go for it.
Oh, that's so cool. I love that it all kind of lined up in place like that. And what you said, it's like when those things do line up and it lines up with something that you're really passionate about, it's like full steam ahead. This is your chance.
Exactly. Yes. And we were passionate about that, about family, about travel, about thinking to the future of how we could craft not only our lives, but, a future business together. So it was good when you can see that potential.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And having the guts to even go through with it, I think is incredible too. And that kind of leads me to the next question. I mean, once your minds were made up, how long did it take you guys to condense your belongings and to prepare for the change?
We started preparing kind of a long time before we actually hit the road. And the first step of that was, a year and a half before we hit the road, we downsized from a rental house that we were living in into a 950 square foot apartment. And so making that transition was definitely the first step. We got rid of a whole bunch of stuff and downsized to that. And that was kind of the idea in doing that, was getting ourselves ready to be able to take advantage of the opportunity when it arose. So we got rid of a lot of stuff. We were saving some money by living in an apartment instead of the house. When the opportunity actually arose, it was like things were settled in such a way where we could make that transition.
About 3 months, I would say.
Yeah, it took 3 to 4 months when we actually decided to. And kind of the catalyst for it was our lease was coming up in the apartment and they really wanted to raise our rent by a lot. And we're like, hey, we can do this, and we'll actually even stay in the area for a few months and we'll save a ton of money over just the apartment.
Yeah. So final downsizing, getting a truck, getting a fifth wheel, took from the time span of about November of 2017 through February of 2018. And then we were in the RV.
Yeah.
So cool. I love how life presented you guys with these obstacles and you were like, actually, I'm going to do my own thing. Like deciding like, oh, I'm not spending enough time with my kids. Maybe I'll just work from home, or, oh, this apartment's way too much. The rent is like being raised. I'll just move to my RV. I love that you guys are kind of taking life by the horns and making your own decisions and kind of catering that to fit the way that feels best to you guys. I think that's really cool perspective.
Thanks. And I love how you just put that, taking an obstacle, right? And then turning it into an opportunity. Yeah.
It reminds me of when we started on the 6-month trip, and we had this saying on our blog when we started, and it was this picture of this little dog like running through a field, and the quote was, live life like somebody left the gate open.
Yes. That's perfect. And that fits perfectly in with what you guys are doing. I mean, I feel like that is the way of the future. People are getting so tired of, the jobs that take up all your time, not spending time, not being able to raise your kids. And it's so great seeing other people that are like, hey, you don't have to do the status quo. You can make your own way, and we don't have to be confined to this, system. You can choose your own path, and it's a really brave thing to do. But I mean, even showing that that's possible to other people just will open so many people's minds to, other possibilities that they could take to make their obstacles opportunities too.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Even if you're not necessarily into the idea of RVing, there's lots of different ways to improve your life. If you're unhappy with the way things are in the moment, you can always change things up for sure.
You can always take a step towards whatever your goal or your passion is. Definitely. Yeah. And we still learn so much from other RVers, from other content creators, like we've been doing this for almost 4 years now, but in the RV space, and especially in content creation space, like we're just learning, and it's amazing how you can be inspired by others.
Yeah. And it's amazing how much content creation changes every year, or like every few months even. It's like it is a full-time job just keeping up with that too. But if you like learning, it's a great space to be in. So do you guys have any tips on ways to financially support yourself while waiting for your side hustle to become your main source of income?
Yes. Yeah, it's funny because we've kind of gone about it in a combination of both what I view as traditional and non-traditional ways. So we started with my job becoming a remote, and I just continued doing that as we transitioned onto the road. I was working a regular corporate job, and that supported us. And we knew that we wanted to try to make a go of our YouTube channel, of growing our blog, of really turning things into a business and seeing how we could provide content that would help others who wanted to RV, just families traveling, and how can we pass our knowledge on. And we tried both at first, and that worked well for a little while, at least to get things started. But the important thing for us at that time was get it started, see how you do with it, right? And while we were doing that, preparing ourselves financially, so we created a budget and we reduced expenses where we could. And that's the nice thing about RVing. You really can reduce your expenses if you want to, because it's a lot more variable. You don't have a lot of fixed costs, or not as many as you might in a regular home. And you can adjust that up or down. So some people spend way more RVing than they ever did in a house, and some people spend way less. Thankfully, we've been able to save money doing this. And now that we have a solar system on our RV roof, and we have some camping memberships, we could go month to month paying no campground fees, no RV rent fees. So that's just one example of how we've saved money. But create a budget, stick to it, lower your expenses.
It's easier said than done, right?
As it really is. And then, save. So another thing that we did is we built ourselves a financial runway. So I think that's really important. Like, how big of a financial runway can you create for yourself so that that visual, right? You have your financial runway, and then is it long enough for you to accelerate, go, and take off with whatever it is that you're pursuing? And so we built ourselves, several years worth of a financial runway. At the same time, we are investing and saving pretty heavily so that we could just set ourselves up in the best possible way. If you have debt, reduce debt. And all of that then led us to the realization that we are not the types that do well trying to juggle, a regular job, the demands of life and family, and starting a side hustle. So if you could do both at the same time, that's definitely the safest, but not necessarily the easiest.
Yeah.
And for a while, we struggled with that. We thought, we need to be able to do it all. Why can't we do it all? Why can't we do both? Well, or more than both, right? Family and all that in there. And we said, no, we are setting ourselves up financially and have this financial runway to be able to say, let's resign from the corporate job and let's pursue this. So that's what I did in April of this year.
Yeah.
And so
congratulations.
Thank you. Exciting and scary at the same time, right? When you do anything new. And so you have to decide what level of risk, I guess, in some ways you're willing to take, how prepared you are financially, or you can get yourself to be financially to have that runway, and then your personal preferences, because it was the best for us for our logistics as a family, and also, I think, truthfully, our mental health.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I bet. That's awesome.
I think another good point too is that now with the prevalence of remote work, there's so many more remote jobs available now too. And I think the majority of RVers who aren't in retirement age that are successful in this lifestyle are carrying some kind of remote job. And I think it's a really good point to make, is that even if you're working in a role that isn't remote, there are most likely opportunities for you to take that role and make it remote, even if it's with another company, find another opportunity or something. But I'd say, like, more as a short-term goal, if you want to get started quicker, definitely look for some kind of remote work that can be the first step to getting you out there if that's what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's so great. I love the financial runway and yeah, all of that, the budgeting, the what Kevin was just saying. You guys have so many great tips. This is awesome. Thank you. So what are some advantages to RV life with kids?
I think it's just being able to spend so much time together is the first thing that I can think of. I'd definitely go back to, instead of seeing my kids for an hour a day, I get to spend all sorts of time with them. Now you're always there for like all those moments where you might feel like you miss out on otherwise.
Definitely. And homeschooling is a big aspect of it as well. And I know more people have homeschooled this past year or 2 years, some out of necessity, right? And some because they've realized, oh, this is a good opportunity to switch to that. I want to, I've always wanted to, but for us, we homeschool out of necessity, being on the road, and also out of desire to teach our children and experience seeing them learn and grow. And there's so many opportunities for that on the road. It really is a good combination. So we do some form of traditional homeschooling with a curriculum. My daughter, she's now first grade. So we did some preschool, kindergarten. Now she's entering first grade, and my son will be starting before too long. And it's fun to do that with them, but then to take it out into the world, right?
Yeah.
So you can go to national parks and do junior ranger programs. They're learning just going down a trail and seeing what they see. And in a lot of ways, it enhances travel for us because we see it through their eyes. We notice things we might not otherwise notice. We sometimes focus on the big grand things, right? Hey, Grand Canyon. Yeah. Hey, this magnificent vista or waterfall. And the kids are like, look, slug.
Yes.
A different kind of perspective, a different kind of like just joy in the travel.
Yeah, I'd say, ironically enough, it was at the North Rim of the Grand Canyon with the Junior Ranger program where they're one of the pieces of the pamphlet was like, did you know that ponderosa pine trees smell like sugar cookies? And we're like, no, I didn't. Sure enough, we're parked amongst a bunch of ponderosa pine. You get to go out and go experience that, and everybody has a good laugh. And it's just experiences like that.
If anybody drove by and saw us with our noses to the tree. When they get a little older, being able to bring history to life, right? Teach them history and go to the sites. So that has been a huge benefit of RVing, is to bring homeschool to life, to teach them and let them have those experiences and really broaden their horizons.
Oh, that's such a cool perspective. I love that. So cool. Do you ever miss having a permanent home and city to live in? And if you do, how do you combat that?
I'd say overall, no. I think there are definitely some perks to having a home, no doubt. You have a lot more space and that kind of thing. But if you ever miss it, there's always opportunities. You can go stay at an Airbnb place for a week or two, or oftentimes in our travels when we visit friends and family and you park on their property and you have access to their house, and doing that kind of gets it out of my system a little bbit, I'd say.
Yeah, you would kind of fill our buckets, right, with time with friends and family. And because I guess growing up, in a military household and moving a lot anyway, it was always, what do they say? Home is where the heart is, right? Home is who you're with, and it's not necessarily the house or the city. So that's kind of the way that we view it. We're together as a family. We can go and see friends and family and enjoy that. And then when our buckets are full, then we continue to move on. But we do have this conversation occasionally just to kind of make sure, is this still working for everybody? I think in anything, it's good to evaluate, what it is that you're doing. Is it what you want to continue doing? And so we've even talked about, should we have a home base at some point, or should we just continue full-time travel? And it makes sense not to have a home base for us right now, but that could change in the future.
Yeah. And I'd say, I think there are pros and cons, obviously, to a house versus an RV. And there's a whole lot of pros for having a house and the extra space and lots of other things. And I'd say ultimately, what we gain in our lifestyle by doing this and traveling outweighs the cons of not having a permanent place.
Yeah. Yeah. That's, at least for now, the conclusion that we've come to. And, so as long as that's true, we'll continue RVing.
Yeah. Well, that's great. You guys have that open communication and you both are open to, going a different route if you want to. Just out of curiosity, how do you guys deal with like mailing stuff or getting stuff like sent to you? Do you have like, I guess, or I'll ask my other question a little bit later, but that one right now.
Yeah.
There's a couple of different ways. Sometimes you can receive mail at a campground, and I would say in our travels this year, that hasn't really been the case as much. But as far as getting packages, ordering things on Amazon, there's Amazon lockers in different cities, and sometimes they're not. It can be difficult, but I'd say one of the easiest ways is getting mail at a local post office that accepts general delivery. And as part of living kind of a nomadic lifestyle, we're registered out of Florida, and Florida has had a huge cruising community for years and years. And so they have these mail forwarding services set up there. And there's a few other states that do it too. So we have an address that we can use in Florida where we accept mail that we really need, and we can have that forwarded on to us wherever we are.
But that definitely is one of the pain points.
Sometimes
when we were in, the Airbnb earlier in the year that Kevin mentioned, our RV had to go in for some repairs, and we did find ourselves, looking around over those several days. We're like, oh, this is different than an RV. This is different. And so we were inspired to make a video on that. Just, there are pros and cons, and you have to weigh those. But there are some pain points that take a little extra planning.
Yeah, we definitely asked the Airbnb host if it was okay to send packages there, and they said yes. So we had like a pile of stuff waiting for us right on the day we showed up.
That's great. You're on your Amazon wish list. You're like, we're getting everything this week.
Oh yeah, the wish list on Amazon and the saved items. They stack up until we have an opportunity to get the things we need.
You're just kind of like, oh, we've got an address. Go, 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 go.
I love that. That's so cool though. And it's cool how with the way the world is and Amazon and everything, like it really does support if you want this lifestyle, that you can do workarounds. It doesn't have to be just, stranded and no contact with the outside world. Like it can be as if you really do have that home base and that home. And that's really cool. I didn't know about all those other things. I hadn't thought about Amazon lockers. And that's great. So what have been some of your favorite locations?
I'd say during the 6-month trip, so that was back in 2013 before kids, we spent 10 days in the Black Hills in South Dakota. And that was, looking back on it, that was definitely the highlight of that trip, I'd say. And because we really loved rock climbing, we did loads and loads of rock climbing while we were there. And we don't do quite as much of that with the kids now because they're still really little, but that was definitely a favorite place from that time. What do you think of some of the others?
Well, more recently, so we still love Colorado so much. We go back there periodically. If we ever did settle down again, it's on the short list of places. And so we went to Glenwood Springs as a family, and we really loved that. There's just so many outdoor activities nearby. It's beautiful. You can bike through Glenwood Canyon. You can take the gondola to the top of the mountain.
It's not far from Aspen. So we actually spent 4th of July there that year. That was really nice.
And so, Glenwood Springs and Colorado in general, we really enjoy. Some surprising places to us because we're trying to eventually get to all 50 states. And we're actually fairly close, but we kind of restarted with the kids. We want to get to the 50 state counter with them as well. Yeah. And Vermont and New Hampshire are a couple of states that we went to that blew us away. Like we knew it would be nice, especially in the fall, but we were just we really enjoyed our time there and would like to go back and spend some more time. National parks are amazing. we could mention every single
Yeah,
national
you
park.
can't,
We
you
love
can't go
them.
wrong with a national park.
But, you know, try to find places too that are like off the beaten path, maybe more hidden gems, because we love the popular places. There's a reason they're popular, they're spectacular, but there's also something really special about going and finding some of these other lesser known places as well, I think.
Yeah, like the west side of the Tetons. Everybody goes to Teton National Park, which is fantastic on the east side. The west side of that place, like on the Idaho-Wyoming border, is amazing and without all the crowds.
Yeah.
It's just finding places like that makes it all worthwhile.
Oh, that's so cool. I'm from Colorado, so I'm a little biased, but it is beautiful.
Which part of Colorado?
Colorado Springs. So
nice.
not as beautiful as the mountains, but
Pikes Peak, though.
Yeah.
The other mountains down there yet?
yes, when I was in high school, I backpacked to the top of Pikes Peak and wouldn't do that again. Learned I was not a big fan, but it was fun saying that I did it.
Right. Yeah, we've only driven to the top.
Yeah. I've hiked another 14er, but yeah, for Pikes Peak, I think I'd drive or take the train.
Yeah. It's the breathing that gets so hard at the end. So what are some of the harder parts of living in an RV that people may not know about?
Well, you can speak to the hard work of it. Kevin does a lot of the, I'd say, heavy lifting for us with the RV, you know, a lot of the setup and the tear down, getting us ready to move.
Yeah, I'd say that depends on the size of RV you have a little bit. For us with a family, I'd say it's probably easier for a couple who have a smaller RV. Some people with families go in smaller RVs too. We're in a 40-foot fifth wheel, which is pretty big. When the truck is hitched up, it's over 60 feet long. Moving it is a lot of work. Set up and tear down takes probably a little bit more time than you might think. And then there's a lot of travel planning involved with that too, to make sure that you've got places to go. And if you don't, and now with our solar setup and all that, doing a lot more boondocking, being kind of off grid with that, you get to see some really spectacular places, oftentimes all out there by yourself, but you're also doing a lot of resource management. So I'm always kind of like watching our power usage and how much water we use so we don't run out before we have to leave and those kinds of things. You see everybody's highlight reel on Instagram, and there's some difficulties to it too. It's a lot of work,
but it's all doable.
Definitely.
Yeah. And it's all, things you can learn and manage. And like Kevin said, if you don't want to do certain things, you can get a smaller RV, or you could travel more slowly, or you stay only in campgrounds. So there's ways to mitigate some of that. And but yeah, it is work. I would say that another thing would be, it can be lonely, in a way, at least at the beginning or at times. So some people hit the road and they think, well, immediately there's going to be people to meet and lots of socializing to do, and you'll always be around people. That's not always the case. And I think the key there is to be more intentional about trying to meet people and trying to reach out and put yourself at events where you might meet people. There is a huge community of RVers and of RVing families. And we have found getting involved in online communities, online forums, is a key to that. Then we start chatting with people. Social media has been amazing for that because we follow fellow RVers. They follow us. We can see where they are. We can comment. We can build that rapport, and the community that you can build if you are intentional will help with that.
Yeah, I'd say if you're a really social person, you might find it a little bit more lonely than you might think. But just like Christine said, there's all these things out there that you can get involved in to do, but you do have to be intentional about it, because you probably won't just bump into people that you're going to become friends with and travel with.
It can happen, but
it's not that likely though.
And then maybe the last thing, the space, right? A smaller space, even though we're in a large fifth wheel, it's even smaller than our former apartment.
Yeah.
And so I think relationship issues, any issues, can be magnified in a smaller space. So it's important to communicate expectations, I think, is a big one. And then, it's not like you can really get away that easily to let your feelings suffer. So just communication and talking things through and making sure that everybody is feeling fulfilled with the way that you're living. Kids especially. So I think that'll get even more important as they get older, but taking into account everyone's needs. Are people being heard? Do they feel like they're getting something out of this as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So as a travel content creator, what forms of social media have you found the most success in?
I'd say YouTube is our number one. And then our travel blog augments that. It's a great place to hold like links and talk more in depth about certain things that we may address in some of our videos. Outside of that, I'd say it's probably Instagram would be the next one.
Yeah, there's a lot of synergy for us in our two main areas that we're pursuing here, our YouTube channel and our blogging. And so those two together have meshed very nicely. And I'm really loving Instagram these days because, like I was saying before, we're building community with other RVers. We're learning from them. The way a lot of things are trending towards video. We found that we're able to leverage our content and reuse some of our content, reformat, share it in different ways that appeal to people differently on different platforms. Most recently we dipped our toes into TikTok.
Nice.
Videos out there, and we're doing more with Instagram Reels as well. So that's been fun, really trying to leverage video. And like Instagram, we're really seeing people driven more to our YouTube through that. It's nice because we can show them, I guess in a way, the highlight reel, right? Show them something and then build kind of a trust there, that we have this content that we want to tell them more about, and then YouTube and our blog kind of build upon that. I would say that's kind of been our strategy.
Cool. That's great. I love all those ideas. And you're right. Video is getting so big right now. And it's great that you guys kind of from the get-go were putting your foot in video, and how YouTube has been so great for you guys. The future is video and marketing.
Just let the camera roll.
Yes. And you guys are both so like easy on camera too. So that's great. Got that working for you.
Thank you. It definitely took some practice. At the beginning, we're like, why are we so awkward?
I think we're all like that when we watch ourselves. We're like, oh no.
There is still some of that too, but it has gotten easier. Anything with practice, I guess.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So what are some marketing non-negotiables for anybody wanting to become a full-time travel content creator and do what you guys are doing?
The first thing that comes to mind is, especially as you're starting out, you might see brands reach out to you that would like you to promote a product or something. And don't just take any deal that comes along. You don't want to promote something that doesn't jive with your audience. So yeah, you could be travel and RVing, and someone may offer you a product or something that has absolutely nothing to do with that, and you don't want to like vouch for something that you aren't familiar with or would recommend anyway.
That absolutely. It goes back to, who are you? What are your goals? What is your vision? Finding your strategy and filtering everything through that lens. So for us, on one hand, we're like, we want to do it all. We're excited, we're passionate, we want to be helpful and drive this forward, but not everything is the right thing for us to pursue, or not pursue at all, or pursue immediately. And so thinking about what are our vision and goals, and then do those things fit? How should we prioritize things? Because our audience isn't going to respond well to products that make no sense for what they're interested in. And our audience, I hope that they learn to trust us. I hope the community that we are building, is gaining a lot of valuable knowledge. And that's really our hope and our goal, is to really connect with people so that they see that we're genuine, we want to be helpful, and we're not just let's just market for marketing's sake. Let's just
make
throw
that money.
things at them. Let's just do what's gonna help the business, right? There's got to be a synergy between, yes, we have to operate as a business, we have to grow, we want to be seen so that we can provide this information, but not at all expensive.
Exactly.
Not right.
Yeah.
Because it can do more harm than good. So I'd say those are our big things.
Nice. That kind of goes what you guys were saying earlier about developing that trust with your audience and really being authentic, and only promoting products that they actually would care about, that you guys actually care about. And I think that is so important when having a blog or a business, is just being really authentic to you and making sure that your audience knows what to expect and that they can have that trust with you. It's what keeps them around so long.
Yeah, we're trying to build also like consistency, right? So again, they know what to expect and we're there for them. And in the RV life, some forms of that can be a little bit tricky because sometimes we have internet connection, sometimes we don't. And, the ebbs and flow of travel. So building processes like using Tailwind and building in our scheduling and what do we do each week. We have a weekly video, we have at least a weekly blog post, we post on social media. People know what to expect. They can turn to us, they can trust us, right? Like you said.
Yeah.
So those are all things that we're building and trying to continue to be consistent with.
Yes. And that's kind of a perfect segue into the next question of, so why did you guys decide to start using Tailwind?
Yeah, I had actually seen it as a recommendation from a fellow RVer and looked into it. I was like, well, is this too good to be true? With, all the things that go along with RV life, with family life, with, day to day and all the other things, anything that helps us, I'm like, we can use all the help that we can get, truthfully.
Oh, exactly. Like starting something new in any regard, you've got so much to learn, and the whole adage of like you're drinking out of the fire hose, trying to understand everything and get it done. Anything that helps you automate part of that process is just so worthwhile.
Yes. Yeah. It made it so much easier. Just being able to, bulk plan, bulk process, schedule, get it all up there, and then not have to worry about it for a while.
Yeah.
It made our life so much easier.
I think some of being able to maintain your consistency too, when you may or may not have an internet connection all the time, like we mentioned a minute ago, it helps a lot to be able to schedule it, and then it takes care of it for you.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's so true. That is like a whole nother layer when you don't have like internet connection every day, that at least Tailwind will make sure that your stuff is getting posted.
Yeah. And so also for us, we started off kind of as a hobby, I would say. Like, back when we were traveling on our 6-month trip, we started a blog, and it really was just a hobby and for friends and family. And then when I was still working for a corporate job, we were planning how to shift it, and then we started that shift. But like Tailwind helps us treat it like a business. You hear a lot that the mistake people make is they start something and they don't treat it like a business. They don't try to grow it and have a professional mindset when it comes to it. And so Tailwind really let us look at it as a business. How can we build something and make it quality as well? So that has been key.
Yes, that's so great. So what would you say is your favorite Tailwind feature and why?
I'd say the visual aspect of planning. So I'm very detail oriented, I'm organized. And so I feel like the interface with Tailwind meets all those criteria. I can put everything up at once. We can look at all our posts, plan them to be cohesive, have that strategy, and then get them up there. I love the hashtag finder. I love that I can see what it's going to look like once I post. So yeah, the detail and the visual merge there. Check the boxes.
Christina's a business analyst, so she loves her spreadsheet. And so seeing everything like in the planner all built out is just
right. Makes my detail loving heart happy.
I love
And
that. Even in your guys' backgrounds is like perfect for what you're doing now. Like you have the business strategy, and Kevin, I think I remember reading before that. Oh, I'm sorry. I totally just lost my train of thought. But you were doing something similar, right? I was about business.
engineering.
I was working in the engineering field, so
Never mind.
I've manufactured circuit boards, done design. I designed our whole solar system for the RV, that kind of thing. But I've also worked in like a network administration realm too.
Mm-hmm.
So
I mean, all also very detail oriented, right? You have to.
yeah, I like to nerd out on all the technical stuff. That's my gig.
Nice. Nice. Oh, I remember what I was gonna say. It was that I read on the blog that you're really into like investments and stuff, and you guys were saying that was really big in helping your financial runway. So it is cool. You guys had like all these like little puzzle pieces that were able to be put together and create this. So really cool.
Yeah, I think it just goes back to finding what it is that you want to do or what your passion is, and then just make a series of baby steps towards that direction so that when the opportunity arises, you're ready to take advantage of it when it's there.
Yeah, and maybe inventorying your skill lists along with your passions and your interests to see, well, where is that overlap? Just because you were working in engineering, that has helped us with our solar system fantastically, but you're not doing engineering on the road, but there's a lot of crossover, right, with the skills that you need for that and the skills for what we're doing now. So that'd be another tip for anybody is, look at your passions and your skills and where's that intersect and what things can you try, because I'm also really loving the Tailwind Create, because it's fun. It's almost like a game, right? You get all your images pulled in from our blog posts, and then we get to see all the different designs, because I'm not as artistically inclined. In some ways we are, right? I mean, we're video creators, we're content creators, but I'm not a graphic designer. I've enjoyed it, but that really helps me. So I can see that I do have some of those skills. I have those passions, but then something that can help elevate that for me is good.
Yeah. Oh, that's a really great point. I love that. So what's your next adventure?
Well, it's coming down near the end of the year, so we're actually going to be going to my parents' house for the holidays, and
I'm actually I'm very excited to see our family. That's going to be really nice, and for the kids too. But I'm also kind of ridiculously excited that we're going to be hunkering down for a few months, because typically we move every 2 weeks or so. Now we're going to be there for probably about 3 months or so, maybe a little less, a little more. And it's really going to give us a chance to really focus on a lot of content creation. So that's kind of our plan. The grandparents don't know it yet, but I think we're to watch the kids.
Guys, here they are.
So that's one part. When we started Never Stop Adventuring, one of the reasons we chose the name is that, I think some people think of adventuring, it's got to be this big grand thing, and you have to go all out. You have to go on a week-long trip to South America or, wherever. But no, like adventuring, you can have that day to day, right? We knew we were going to have kids, so we knew like there are going to be little adventures. There's going to be finding the adventure in the everyday, right, out in your backyard or wherever. So like to us, this next few months is okay. Well, it's going to be an adventure trying to really ramp up our production, really see how we can challenge ourselves and where we can create content that's going to be helpful to people in the RVing space, family travel space. And then that's really hopefully going to set the stage for us next year to do some international travel. Well, I have family in Germany, and we've been waiting a while to go see them again. So that's first priority. Go see family, travel a bit in Germany, and then hopefully elsewhere in Europe, and maybe do a little mix of RVing internationally.
Yeah.
Ooh. Oh, that is very exciting. That is next level. I'm very excited to follow along.
We're just getting started.
Perfect. Love it. And then I have an additional question. You guys are so compatible and you have like so much in common. How did you guys meet?
Funny story. We met rappelling off of a cliff together in the DC area, training to go caving in West Virginia.
Well, very kismet. You guys are always adventuring together then.
Yeah. Although, it's funny because like initial impressions weren't entirely ideal.
We did not get along at first, no.
Yeah, there were some things that we were just kind of like, I don't know about this guy, but but then we went caving together, and what's not to love about someone covered from head to toe in mud?
Yeah, absolutely.
The sparks.
Yeah, it kick-started the adventures. Yeah, for sure.
Oh, that's so cool. That's like, so you met doing adventure together, and now this beautiful relationship and family has blossomed out of it, and you're still doing that. That's really incredible.
Thanks.
Well, do you guys have any other questions?
No, I'm just, I really am appreciating using Tailwind, not just for what it's doing for us now, but I see so much potential for us to continue using it and leveraging it to its full potential, because that's kind of the phase we're in now, is just trying to see what the next steps are and grow and provide more value. So it's an adventure. It's going to continue to be, and maybe just encouraging others, in whatever it is that they're pursuing, because we love RVing, we love travel, we love what we're doing, and we're passionate about that, but not everybody's passionate about getting in an RV or the other things. And so whatever people are passionate about, we hope that they pursue it, because the hardest thing is when you think you're stuck, right? Or you're in a rut. And just that, don't think you're stuck in a rut. Don't think that there's, nothing that you can change. There's always kind of that first step that you can take to pursue whatever it is that you're passionate about.
And sometimes that first step is the most difficult one. Sometimes it's just getting out the front door of your own house, getting everything ready, taking the family and going. But
that challenges us sometimes.
All the time. But I think, just like that, you should don't ever feel stuck. You can always take that first step towards pursuing your dreams and your goals, whatever it may be.
Absolutely.
Well, it has been such a pleasure. You guys are both so wise and inspiring, and I think everyone is going to love your interview. So thank you so much for this incredible conversation that we had and all the great content it's going to produce.
Thank you so much. We're just grateful for the opportunity we have to do this. Just, excited to keep learning, and we thank you for this opportunity. This has been so fun. Yeah, we really appreciate it. So thanks for letting us come on and talk with you. We've really enjoyed it.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Oh, absolutely.